Hello, everyone, and welcome to MLB This Week. It's the MLB This Week Baseball Podcast. Well, the college season and spring training season has started up. The New York Yankees, greed, and a war with StubHub. The Baseball Hall of Fame tries to stay up with the latest technology. All this and more on this edition of MLB This Week.
Whoops. You're not the only one that's all confused.
On MLB This Week. And hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of MLB This Week. It's the MLB This Week podcast. My name is Rich.
And I'm Gary, and Rich trying the first blab of the podcast. And this is something a little bit different. So there's a little confusion coming into it, but next time we'll have to practice.
Yeah. We kind of go into this new technology blind most of the time. I tried to set up a lapel mic, which is never easy. Then you couldn't hear me on Blab, but we got it working now, and that's the cool thing. And just another great platform to get podcasts out there. Nice, easy platform for most people. We try to feed our podcast through a couple different settings before we send it out, so it gets complicated for us. But yeah, I kind of like this Blab.
Well, it certainly is a little different. We'll have to see how it works out when you upload it. It's going to have a different look to people instead of seeing just our faces. I think they'll see both of us at the same time, all the time. So it's sort of like talking to one another. I don't know where to look though. I'm looking at the camera, but I'm looking at you on the monitor. So
yeah, well, I guess
I'm a little confused.
The idea of this is to look at your camera, of course, for our
There
viewers
okay.
have tuned in live. But yeah, it is a little confusing at times. But we have baseball back, so we're clearing up all the fogginess out of the winter doldrums that we've been going through, and pitchers or catchers are back in Clearwater, Florida, all over southern Florida and Arizona.
Yeah, it's that time of year, Rich, and it's good to see the game getting back on track, and of course, there's always some kind of controversy going on, and one of the things that always happens is with the Yankees, and they're causing quite a stir up here with the after ticket market as they have announced a new policy that prevents people from printing the tickets. As you know, you can go to StubHub or one of those other ones and print out a ticket right before game time sometimes and go. But the Yankees are going to stop that. They're not going to accept it. Now, I don't know how they do it. For instance, I've printed out tickets from the Mets website and taken those in. I don't know how they're going to handle that with theirs. I think you're going to have to show the ticket on your phone. They'll take that, and supposedly this is to beat fraud of tickets and all of this. That's their excuse. But they did an interview with the COO, Chief Operating Lon Trust, and he spoke about the decision. And really, it really came down to that they don't want a lot of the riffraff in the expensive seats with the rich people, and they're trying to use these other reasons, and also where we say the greed of the Yankees is because they're also hooked up with like Ticketmaster, who's a third party seller, but they won't sell below the face value of the ticket. So they're hooked up with them with their own exchange, and they just want to put StubHub, I guess, try to get StubHub out of business. Of course, the reaction in New York here has not been favorable to the Yankees. People like that. They like to go to StubHub you may come home and say, I'd like to go to a ball game. I'm feeling pretty good. Let's go to a ball game. And what are you going to do? If you go to StubHub, you can't look for tickets that you might be able to pick up at a couple bucks cheaper. Now you got to go to Ticketmaster. The Ticketmaster's got a charge on it. But see, the Yankees are hooked up with them, so they're making some more money off of that. Even though the tickets on StubHub were bought from the Yankees, so they're still getting the ticket price. But then when it comes down to, and it was simply what he said, and that was that they don't want people that buy a ticket at a very premium location, pay a substantial amount of money. It's not that we don't want. This is what he's saying now, lawn trust, the fan to sell it, but the fan is sitting there having paid a substantial amount of money for a ticket, and another fan picks it up for $1.50 and sits there, and it's frustrating to the purchaser of the full amount. And then he went on to say, and this is with a radio interview on WFAN, a comment that raised the eyebrows of everybody across the state, I guess, maybe the country. And he said, and quite frankly, he said, the fan may be someone who has never sat in a premium location, so that's a frustration to our existing fan base. And I got to tell you, Rich, that if that's the attitude, the Yankees, this elitist attitude, I hope they finish last place for the next 10 years then, if they're going to go with this kind of stuff. I guess they'd rather have games on TV where you can see it is so empty behind home plate because the people didn't show, or maybe the tickets weren't even sold for those seats.
Yeah, and they're acting like it's just happening now with StubHub. StubHub's been around for years now. I think it's more of their own pricing structure with the Yankees. You got to spend an arm and a leg to go see them. The free market dictates a lot of the prices on StubHub. If there's availability, you can pick up tickets cheaper than face value. People sometimes are just happy to unload those tickets, including corporations. But I that came out of nowhere because MLB, Major League Baseball, is using StubHub as their secondary marketplace. So I don't think it's going to change anytime too soon.
But the Yankees want to use their own, so that's where it's coming from, and they don't want to sell the tickets below face value. And they came up with, and then for the guy to say that, and like I said, the headlines in the papers have been all about, keep the riffraff out of the stadium, and have then 12 people at a game. Because it's those people, hardworking people, that go to a game that are keeping you in business, not these corporations. They love to cater to these corporations, but you see the empty seats. Yes, they paid for the tickets and they're making the money, but you know what? That doesn't look good on television when you say you've got 35,000 people and it looks like there's about 5,000 people in the stadium. So, this is the elitist Yankees, though. This is the greatest organization. By the way, what's the last big free agent they got that was young? Because people aren't pounding the door anymore to come here. The pressure of the press and everything else, they're just not coming to New York like they used to. And add this elitist attitude to it. And boy, I got to tell you, it's going to be a hard sell. And the other thing to keep in mind is with the Mets on the rise, my team, people are going to, because New Yorkers are funny, a lot of them are New York fans. They're front runners, and they'll be going to Met games then. And the Mets have got to be smart and not decide to take this kind of attitude, because they can pick up a lot of these new fans and stuff, and they'll be making money hand over fist. And the Yankees will be, I think they're going to struggle. I don't like the way their team's built. They have a knockout bullpen. But you got to get to that 6th to 7th inning to get that bullpen in. And starting pitchers isn't it good, and they're an old team. So that's another point we can discuss another time. But this whole ticket thing is utterly ridiculous. The whole idea nowadays is to make things easy for the fans so they can get to the ball game. And all the Yankees want to do is complicate that and make it more difficult for their fans.
Yes, they are. And all in the name of charging more for tickets. And I think they're about at the sky's the limit right now as far as the Yankees are concerned. They haven't turned in a good year in the last few seasons, as you said, Gary, and it's just, it's kind of disheartening. And as you said, there's plenty of availability, open seats right behind home plate. What's wrong with filling them in even at a discounted price? I don't see where this came from. This is sort of a surprise to me, but evidently it's sticks in the craw of the Yankees' upper management.
I guess so. I guess they needed to make some more money. I don't know why, but and again, those tickets for the most part are probably sold. So all you're talking about, but the bottom line is, I think, comes in the second part of that statement, that it's got nothing to do about the fraud or anything like that. Duplicate tickets got nothing to do with that. I think what it really comes down to is they're making getting a cut probably from Ticketmaster above and beyond the price of the ticket, so they're getting that, and also they don't want the people from the bleachers or from other sitting with the elitists, or maybe the elitists sitting in the box seats don't want the riffraff from other parts of the stadium to come. And so then show up at a game, then buy the ticket, but don't hand them out. It's other rich people, if they are rich, and you have to be, because I think you made a good point with your purchase price, that this is they made this crazy ticket prices way before when the stadium opened to pay it off, I guess, and the market isn't there anymore at that level. So do you lower them? Nothing comes down anymore, but I like I say, I don't really care because I can't stand them anyway. So to me, this is a great story. But get everybody annoyed in New York. I don't care.
That's what they seem to be doing. Well, around the baseball world, college kicked off its season on Friday and Saturday. Ole Miss debuted some powder blue baseball uniforms, some brand new ones. And they really just jump right into the season, Gary. They don't really have a long spring training type of deal, but college is already playing games.
Yeah, I know. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he's going to be at some games in March, I think, up here in at some ballparks. NYU, I believe, is going to play some games and start their season. And boy, it's we think about the pros sometimes, it's a long season, but these college kids get to play in some less than favorable conditions sometimes. I mean, they're going to be playing some cold northeast weather, so maybe that's why a lot of the players come from the West Coast, because it's too cool to get out there and play baseball, I guess, in the late winter, let's say.
That's for sure. It's still not what I would consider baseball weather in our neck of the woods here in the Northeast, but slowly but surely, days like today in the 60s or so, we're starting to feel the warmth of spring and baseball coming on.
Yeah, that's for sure, and it's a great thing. I'm getting a bug already. Looking at the planning what games I may be able to make, and getting all excited about that, Rich.
You're listening to MLB This Week, the baseball podcast. You can check our website out at MLBThisWeek.com. You can find our podcast there, our links to iTunes and also Stitcher Radio. And we also have a video version of the podcast each week that we do, usually through Google Hangouts. But this week we're trying the new Blab.im, which is out of San Francisco. They're giving a little bit of a competitiveness to Google Hangouts, it seems.
Yeah, it seems that way, and I'm sure there's other ones that are out there as well that we haven't tried yet.
Yeah.
I think they're I don't know if they're who their competition in is, other than as you say, Google Hangout, and I don't know much about Periscope, so I don't know if that's a sort of a competitor to Blab, but it's an interesting concept, and we'll see how it works out in the when we get done with this episode and see how it came out.
Absolutely. Well, we invite you to follow us on Twitter as well, at MLBThisWeek. We're an independent podcast, not sponsored by baseball or any baseball team. Gary has his own podcast at MetsMusings.com. It's called Mets Musings. I do a Phillies broadcast over at FightinPhillies.com. That's the home of that. And all of these shows are on BaseballTalkRadio.com. It's a great place to check out all kinds of baseball talk from around the world. There's a Japanese show there, a show from Europe, across the United States, just about every team we're trying to get represented there at BaseballTalkRadio.com. So go out and check that out as well.
Rich, I thought we were talking before with Red Monkey Eyes. He's tuning in, and he's a Cincinnati Reds fan, and I don't think there's one from Cincinnati yet, is there?
No, so
we're gonna have to look into that.
Red Monkey Eyes, maybe since you're on Blab here, you might want to start your own here over at the Cincinnati Reds area. Maybe we can
there
get
you go. Great idea.
So great talk there about baseball over at Baseball Talk Radio. And Gary, another story up here for this week on our show here. The Baseball Hall of Fame trying to keep up with the times, transferring its digital archive project and focusing on the different collections it has. Baseball Hall of Fame up in Cooperstown, New York, has about the largest collection everywhere, and featuring interviews, oral histories, game broadcasts, and more. They currently have that material on reel-to-reel tapes, cassettes, microcassettes, 45 RPM vinyl records, and even aluminum records. So they have all these older technologies, quote unquote, and they just recently found a company not too far away from them in Newburgh, New York, to take a lot of this material to and finally get it digitized into a medium that will probably last for many more years. So Baseball Hall of Fame there, trying to stay up with the times. And isn't it true, Gary? You could look around your own house sometimes when you see the older technologies, the little 3.5-inch floppy disks, if you remember them, even as far back as the 5.5-inch.
Oh boy, the 5 1/4.
5 1/4, rather. It just progresses on and on. Every few years, there's a new medium to take your materials to, be it your digital photographs or recordings that you've made over the years. And I have a rack of 8mm tapes that I'd love to transpose over into digital and get them up into the digital realm as well before you can't find any more of those players around.
Yeah, get them on a DVD, and that would certainly be a cool thing to do. And as you say, this is going to be a great project for the Hall of Fame to get it all on, and it should be a huge project, but I'm sure it's one they'll get done, and that tells the history of the game. You're going to tell the game through oral history, and and the pictures that go with it, and they have that all at the Hall of Fame. So it'll be great when they get it all done and all set and up to go, and probably easy to find. They probably could even put certain things right on the internet for us to find easily.
Yeah, and if you want to read more about the project, go over to baseballhall.org. It's on their main page there, digitizing their huge audio collection, trying to get it over into mediums that will last for the next 50 or 100 years. It's challenging feat there, but interesting article. Check it out over at baseballhall.org.
And what's up, Rich, with the next story?
The next story we have on this week's show, I think we both read this one during the week. I kind of got a giggle out of it. Terry Collins, the New York Mets manager, rips sabermetrics to shreds.
Yeah, Terry is a man of my own heart. He gave his not so high opinion on the analytics that have taken over the game this past week. I'm not sure how much an old school guy can add to the game today, Collins told USA Today. It's become a young man's game, especially with all the technology stuff you've got to be involved in. I'm not very good at it. I don't enjoy it like other people do. I'm not going to sit there today and look at all of these, and he used a expletive numbers, and try to predict this guy is going to be a great player. OPS this, OPS that, GPS, LCS, DSDs, who has good numbers, good effing players. That's why, to me, the Cespedes signing was good for us. He changed our team last year. He makes our lineup legitimate. The guy's going to hit 25 to 30 homers. He's going to drive in 100 runs. That's what he does. Those are the numbers that I like. Now, Collins is the oldest manager in baseball, and he is a character. And he kind of always speaks his mind, Rich. So he doesn't believe in secrets. Secrets are bull. He said once in a while there are things I'm not at liberty to talk about, but I don't hold secrets. I tell it like it is. And that's just me. I don't have to apologize to anybody. And he's got a point there, Rich. With too politically correct and worry about things being not said. And Terry comes out and says it. And, of course, as you say, he's not a fan of all of the analytics. And neither, I mean, they have their place. I'm not a big fan either. I think it has a place. But baseball is seen to be going totally over the top with this stuff. And I don't think it's necessarily good for the game or necessarily pinpoints the next great stars. I think you still have to have the eye test and in some instances the ear test too, if you remember that movie with Clint Eastwood. So Terry Collins, though, is a character, and we're fortunate to hear him every game. So we're used to it here in New York.
Yeah, and it seems like more and more sabermetrics are being used by teams to establish contracts and things like that. It's creeping its way into every bit of the game here, where it was on the outside looking in at one point. It seems like it's up in the driver's seat, taking a drive through the ballparks now. It's sort of, everybody loves numbers, and I don't want to knock anybody that likes sabermetrics, because I know there's a ton of people out there that like it, and they can point to different figures that suggest a player is better than another player. But I think you sort of know that already. You can look at, just like a co-host of mine from Phillies Talk says, you can look at a few stats and kind of figure out what kind of player he is right off the bat without delving into these complicated math computations to figure it out. But it's different strokes for different folks. I don't knock anybody that likes sabermetrics, but it does seem like it's too much into baseball anymore.
Yeah, I just think it's getting to be too much. And I think, we did a story a couple of weeks ago about how the old-time scouts, some of them can't find jobs even because of all the technology and stuff now. They don't feel like they need it. But, those are the guys that discovered people in the backwoods. And, if it was all sabermetrics, maybe Dizzy Dean would have never been discovered because somebody had to go see him pitch, or, just a lot of things like that. And it just doesn't seem like they want to modernize everything, which is okay. But I still think, as you say, you have to see a guy throw a ball. You got to hear the pop it makes and the sound of a ball off a bat. How many times do you hear a manager or a scout or a general manager say, the sound off of that guy's bat is just different, and there is different sounds, and I think that's why you need a scout. You need a scout going through the bushes and looking for these players that may not show up on technology. Maybe they don't play high school ball. Maybe they're just playing summer league ball of some sort. So I think there's a place for it, but I don't think it should be the end all and be all.
Absolutely. So we'll keep our eye on that story for you here on MLB This Week, the audio podcast, independent, brought to you each week right here at MLBThisWeek.com. And Gary, up on the screen here and up for our next story is the Pittsburgh Pirates are going to be sporting a new look in 2016. It's sort of an old look if you're kind of old guys like us. We remember this look real well. The 1979 Pittsburgh Pirates will be represented on the field every Sunday. Home game for the Pittsburgh Pirates. They'll be wearing these nifty yellow and black jerseys here for the 2016 season. And it's a great throwback uniform back to the 79 season where they really ruled baseball, Gary.
And this was a look that they wore in the 79 with the yellow, the golden jerseys, the black pants, and the old pillbox hat. And they had two of those kinds of hats. They had a gold hat with black bands around it, and they also had the black hat with the gold bands around it. And that's the look they're bringing back, and they're going to be wearing it on Sundays throughout this season. So that ought to be a cool thing. And I always kind of like those uniforms, and somewhere in my house I have one of those Pittsburgh Pirate hats, the pillbox hats, and if I can find it, I'll have it on a future show. But always kind of a cool look, and we'll see how it goes
back.
when they
Can
wear
you hear
it. Rich, it looks like Rich is back. I can hear you. You were we lost you there momentarily, and I don't know. Maybe your file it came out okay. Maybe
sorry for going away.
Yeah,
I tried to segue over into
he's back, folks. So
a Minicam. Apparently, this Blab cannot handle Minicam. I tried to segue into a picture of the black jersey and gold jersey that the Pirates will be wearing in 1979, and that crashed my connection here with Blab, it looks like.
Well, like you said, I guess we better we better practice more with this
on Google Hangouts. Yeah, I wouldn't try that, Gary, because
let's see if I can get a picture to show the folks.
Here. There it is.
Well, there it is. If you're on Blab, you can see that's Andrew McCutcheon, and he's modeling the uniform there, and the old pillbox hats. And I don't know what you heard, Rich, but I was telling the folks that somewhere in the recesses of my house, I have one of those pillbox hats, the black with the gold stripes. I'm bit of a Pirate fan. I like the Pirates, except when they play the Mets, of course, because I went to school up around Pittsburgh and spent some time at the old Three River Stadium, and they were wearing those uniforms at that time. So remember them well, and good to see bring it back. And they were one of the few teams that kept wearing it, the pillbox hats. There was a time where all the teams in the league wore it. I think it was 1969 on special games and stuff. They would wear it to celebrate the 100th year of baseball. And I guess the Pirates liked the look so much that they continued to wear it. And I was telling the folks that they also had a gold hat with the black, just the reverse of the black hat that we just showed, and they would switch them and wear them with a black uniform and whatnot. But glad to see sometimes the old looks coming back.
Baseball seems to be going after
cool.
the younger audience all the time. They might be going to extremes now, as you have the story up for that in this next segment on MLB This Week.
This is a crazy story, I think. I know they want to get youth in and everything like that, but they're talking about maybe some radical rule changes, not on the big league level right away, but Hall of Famer Cal Ripken was just hired in December by Rob Manfred to be a special advisor on youth programs and outreach. And he claims we're not ruining the game, we're teaching the game, we're showcasing the game. We want to test this out in tournament games and consolation games to see how it works. And here are some of the ideas, and I'll just put it out there, and people can react to it. How about starting every inning with a runner on first base? How about starting each inning with a different count? Instead of 3 outs an inning, how about just 5 batters? What if players are required to steal? And Ripken went on to say, we want to put out some ideas and try some things. Look, if someone doesn't know how to coach baseball, it can be the most boring sport in the world, sharing one ball with 8 players and a pitcher. So let's try different elements. These rules have stood for a long time. Let's see how we can create action plays in baseball. Let a catcher block balls and throw out runners. Let infielders have the potential for double plays. Showcase an outfielder's arm strength. It's all part of Manfred's master plan. He introduced the Play Ball initiative, hired former L.A. Angels GM Tony Riggins to oversee all the youth programs, reaching out to city mayors across the country for Play Ball summer and clubs with Play Ball weekend in May. I don't know. I mean, there's some other things that they're doing. The Pirates, who we just talked about, they and 10 other franchises have invested in Diamond Kinetics, a software that allows players to analyze their swing with a sensor on the knob of their bat. It lets them know their bat speed, exit velocity, and everything else you want to know without needing a joystick or a video game. And we all know how kids love the gadgets, so perhaps they can catch into this and get more engaged in the game. But I don't know, Rich. I guess I'm just an old geezer and don't want to see any radical changes. And again, this would not be on the pro level, of course, this being youth baseball, but I don't see what you're teaching them then. What happens if they go play in regular games then and they're expecting the guy to be on first base to start the inning, or a guy takes off to run right away? And I don't know.
I think
that's just my thoughts.
Actually,
Rich, what, you got any thoughts on that?
Very far away from the games that we remember as kids. That would be another dimension in baseball, really, to add those wild cards into the game, so to speak. But, stranger things have happened. A lot of people complain that baseball is kind of boring at times. It's a summer game. It's kind of a slower game. It's not like a hockey or a football where people are breaking each other's bones and things like that. It's more of a kind of a thinking man's sport, almost like a golf. But I think that would be a bit extreme, Gary, on the farther end of what I would be used to.
And that's, I mean, I think you just said it right. It is a summer game, and everything's a little bit more laid back and calmer in the summer, and that's what you like. And everybody wants to speed up everything. I mean, they want to speed up golf, they want to speed up baseball. If I'm paying that kind of money to go to a baseball game, I want to relax. I don't want to be rushed through. I mean, I can remember as a kid, you used to have the faster games, and then it'd be like I'd say to my father, "That's it. What, we're leaving already? We just got here. It seemed like I want to enjoy it more." And maybe I'm just old fashioned that way, but same thing in golf. You know, they want to rush you through, and you pay your price. I want to look at the grass and look at the scenery and enjoy the round and being outside. I don't want to rush through and be done. And then I don't get it with this thing. And it's all about money as far as golf goes. I don't want to get off on a tangent with that, but it's all about money and these courses pushing through the as many players as they can to make money. But in baseball, I want to relax. I want to get to the game. I want to watch the game. I want to think about the game. I want to talk to my buddies about the game and think along with the manager. And man, some of these ideas, I don't know. It goes back to that whole designated hitter again thing, and how these kids don't even know how to pick up a glove anymore. Because they just hit in Little League or whatever they're playing in. So I don't know if all of these changes are so great, but
hopefully not any of those changes.
I guess changes are coming, Rich.
Keep our eyes open for that, and keep an eye out for those radical changes maybe coming to baseball. But for now, a new feature on the show at MLB This Week, the baseball podcast. I kind of thought this would be a good feature to bring up. A baseball site of the week, a website of the week, Gary. Something that we find on the web we might want to share with our listeners here. And this past week, I found this baseball website online. It's SeanLahman.com, and it's spelled SeanLahman.com. He happens to be a writer for a newspaper, the Democrat and Chronicle, and he also maintains a big baseball archive over at his website. That's SeanLahman.com, and it would be great to maybe get a guy like this on a future podcast talking baseball with us, Gar.
Sure would. I'm looking at it now, and it looks pretty neat. He's got some data bank there of baseball, wouldn't call it memorabilia, facts, I guess, and history. So
he's got all kinds
looks
of
pretty neat, Rich.
An index of online baseball guides.
In
other words, the guide you might buy when you go to the ballpark. There's all kinds of old reprinted type of the originals from 1910, the late 1800s. He's just assembled quite a collection there and uploaded them up to the web. Very cool. A lot of his guides that he's collected have been digitized and made available at the Library of Congress, Smithsonian Library, and the Internet Archive. So, yeah, here's a serious baseball fan here. He's got a great website and a lot to learn about some of these baseball websites. You can find out a lot about the history of this great game of baseball.
Yeah, and there's certainly a ton of history to this game. And if you're a history buff like we are, Rich, we love this kind of stuff. And I just got a book in the mail dealing with the Players League of 1893, and that's right up my kind of alley. But this is really neat. Sean's website here with all of this history, and there is such a lot of it, Rich. I don't think we always understand it, that generations come and they seem to think the game was invented by them, and it goes back a long way.
Indeed. And so we like to reach out
thank goodness
for
sites like this,
give our listeners at MLB This Week another avenue to stop to in their baseball knowledge and research right on the internet there. So rounding up this show, Gary, you have our last story of the show here. an agent reportedly indicted. Terrible charge here against him.
Yeah, the agent of Seattle Mariners outfielder Leonos Martin was reportedly indicted Friday for his role in helping his client defect from Cuba in 2010. According to Jeff Passan of Yahoo Sports, Bart Hernandez is facing human trafficking charges in relation to the 27-year-old former Texas Rangers star. According to ESPN.com, Scott Eaton, agents from the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI arrested Hernandez on Friday in Miami. Passan added that Hernandez faces up to 20 years in prison with a minimum sentence of 3 years if convicted. The indictment alleges that Hernandez conspired with convicted Cuban alien smugglers Elizar Lazo and Joel Martinez Hernandez to illegally bring Martin to the United States from Cuba. According to Yahoo Sports, Martin filed a lawsuit against Lazo and Martinez Hernandez in 2013, alleging that they held him and his family captive for more than 6 months in 2010 and 2011 to extort money from him upon signing his initial contract with the Rangers. Martin went on to play for the Rangers from 2011 through 2015, hitting .255 with 20 home runs, 120 RBI, and 84 stolen bases in parts of 5 seasons. So something else getting into the game, Rich, as we're talking about bringing these guys from some of these other countries, mostly Cuba, and if I'm not mistaken, I think there was a story about Yasiel Puig with something similar, and just a shame that it's such a great game. We wait all winter for it, and then they have stories pop up like this. It's just kind of discouraging as you go along in time with that people could actually do this to. But I guess, it's all about making a buck.
And where these guys come up and they sign these big
Cuba's
contracts,
a hot market
lot
right
of
now.
money, it always going to attract a wrong crowd, so to speak. So, yeah, it's good that, this has been exposed and maybe it'll curtail some of these activities. I know since America and Cuba seem to be back on a more friendly path, a lot of this escaping and things like that may be a thing of the past. So, yeah, it's just a terrible story there for baseball, and its first week of glory, so to speak. The guys are back in camp, pitchers and catchers. The rest of the teams are generally reporting Monday or Tuesday, Gary, and I can't wait for that. Then we get to look at some of the offense that goes on in the game right before they start up playing, probably in another 8 or 9 days from now.
Yeah, that'll be the big thing, and may not even be that long. Yeah, I guess so, Rich. I guess you're right, about 9 days or so. They usually start around the 1st of March.
Yes,
I believe.
and
so.
we'll be there watching.
It's
recording our stories and reporting them for you, our listeners. MLB This Week Podcast. Stop by our website, MLBThisWeek.com. You can sponsor us. Go over to our Patreon.com site. There's a link right on our page at MLBThisWeek.com. You can give us $1 or $2 a month. Keep the show going. We'll get some new technology like this Blab we're recording today. We'd like to expand about that. But, Gary, another great show. I can't wait till next week's already.
I'm with you, Rich, and
we'll
more exciting news hopefully from MLB to talk about next week.